Hey everybody, happy Freaky Friday from the podcast. It is the daily, it is the end of the week, and we are going back to the mailbag. And well, first of all, I am on a hard line today. It's a big change. Let's just start with that. I've had some major problems. They are on my end. I will own it. Berm is our producer extraordinaire. Bill apparently has magical Wi-Fi. I do not. And I hate AV stuff. I'm bad at tech. I hope that this is a solution, and I hope that we have no more issues. But it's me. I'm the problem. Hi. That's all backwards, but that's how I feel right now. My brain is all messed up. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. So I'm going to give it my best. I don't know if this is the solution, but I guess we'll find out.
We will power through either way. We will find a way to make sure that we mitigate the issue as well as we can.
Berm, how did you find out? I have a mailbag question. How did you discover that you just loved like tech nerd Wi-Fi jibber jabber?
My dad was like a big computer nerd back in like the early 80s when they were just getting started, like Commodore 64s and all those things. So I was always into nerdy stuff. It's fun. Also, cool. If you don't learn to work with technology, it's going to kill you. So I'm trying to make friends with it before the AI, evolution and revolution fully encompasses what we're doing. So if you're out there, AI overlord, please know, spare me. I'm trying to work with you.
I have appreciation for it. I just don't know how to use it. I've never felt older than I did today, trying to figure out what was wrong with my computer and my internet and Wi-Fi and everything. When I couldn't even get the hard line to work, that's when I wanted to really be old man yelling at clouds and throw my laptop out the window. I was really close to that.
I have suggestions. We'll deal with it over the weekend, and how we can try and make it work a little bit better. First and foremost, your internet provider needs to provide you with a new router, and we'll move forward from there. But anyway, Freaky Friday, mailbag edition. We tried to get some players for this show. I don't want to be the one to tell you guys this, but the players on the Ohio State football team are not really great at responding to text messages. So sorry, it's just us three for this episode of Freaky Friday.
Well, I think there's also two other things. Bill's going to get to talk on this episode at some point, just not yet. He's sitting there having a great time. They're winding down classes. Like, they are still students. They have finals. They just finished up, or they're getting ready to finish up a semester, and they finished up spring camp last week. So this was probably not the ideal week for that, as they do have responsibilities that have nothing to do with us. I know that's hard to believe and hard to imagine, but it is true.
Yes.
Bill, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just looking through these questions, trying to figure out which one to use first. But I think I got a couple of good candidates here.
Okay.
Freaky Friday, mailbag, let it rip.
Now let's do it. Yeah. Let's have some fun.
All right. I'm always fearful of reading people's handles on the message board because I don't know. It could be innuendo that I'm not aware of. But this one seems fairly safe. It's from NEPats80, which I'm guessing is New England Patriots. Maybe it's Ryan Day. The question, it's a tried and true mailbag question. If you could add any past Ohio State player to the current team, who would it be and why? Should we all say Orlando Pace in unison?
Orlando Pace.
Yeah, on the count of three, Orlando Pace. Because he's the best offensive lineman in the history of college football.
I feel like there needed to be more caveats, like somebody from last year's team or somebody from the last. Even then, it would be really easy. We would just say Paris Johnson,
right,
or the last 10 years, and you might, make a case for Taylor Decker instead. Like, it would have to be adding an offensive tackle. Like, there's just really no question about that. That is the one spot that Ohio State has to address in some form or fashion. Maybe it will happen with Zen Mahalski or Tegra Shabola or Donovan Jackson or somebody on the current roster. But it has to be someone who has played that position in Ohio State history for the sake of this exercise.
Okay, so let's just remove offensive tackle from the equation. And let's add our own qualifier for the last decade, last 10 years since you've been covering Ohio State. Bill, you've been covering the team since 2014, right? 2015?
Mm-hmm. 14, yep.
So basically 10 years now. In the last decade, what player would it be? Outside of offensive tackle.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, probably Justin Fields.
He was really, really good. I don't think people are ever going to truly appreciate how good he was in 2019 and 2020. But I'm going to say Chase Young.
I don't. Yeah. Well, that's pretty good too.
Yeah,
2019 Chase Young.
Be a good one.
2019 Chase Young was as good a college football player as I've ever seen. So I think it's probably him.
He was a truly phenomenal athlete, and it was so fun to watch him become that monstrous predator that he became. I just think, like, because the situation is unproven, and I think that, as I've said many times, Kyle McCord and Devin Brown can get it absolutely get the job done for Ohio State. But like the way that JT and Jack played throughout spring, like I don't know that the situation is that desperate at defensive end. It's probably not at quarterback either, if we're being honest about that. But those are two generational athletes that we've seen play at Ohio State. Like you couldn't go wrong on either side by adding Chase Young or Justin Fields to your team.
Yeah, I'd like to have Justin Fields in a world where the quarterback will probably be running around just a little bit behind that offensive line.
That would definitely help. He can make some things happen, as the Bears are finally starting to realize.
You guys put me in charge of picking the question, so here comes another offensive line question. This is from Weave77. With regard to the Ohio State starting offensive tackles come fall, I feel like there are 3 different possibilities. Based on your gut, rank these 3 scenarios in order of likelihood. Number 1, what we saw in the spring game is what we'll see in the fall. Josh Fryer at left tackle and either Tager Shabola or Zen Michalski at right tackle. Number 2, Donovan Jackson is moved out to left tackle and Josh Fryer is moved to right tackle. Number 3, the Buckeyes hit the portal, resulting in a combination of Fryer and a new transfer at tackle.
1, 3,
Berman,
2.
you gonna go first?
Yeah, 1, 3, 2 is most in order of likelihood, in my opinion.
Yeah, it sounds like boring, but the first scenario is the most likely. And I can hear people like freaking out about it and what they saw throughout spring, and like that's not good enough for Ohio State to win a championship. Maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll see. But I do to give this coaching staff credit. I think that with 29 more practices, that Zen Michalski or Tager Shabola can become a serviceable or better starter for Ohio State at right tackle. I do think that they will supplement the depth with somebody through the portal, but I, at this point, would not expect a starting caliber Ohio State player to emerge to go out and just go plug in at right tackle. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think I agree with that. I think mostly because of what you just said at the end. Like, I don't know, even if you look right now, like there's nobody currently in the portal that like just jumps out to you and screams like that's a starting tackle to Ohio State. Spring ball is not over for everybody. There could be by this time next week. Like the kid from San Diego State, I think is like a good player. He's not like a slam dunk home run upgrade over what Ohio State already has. The kid from Wyoming, I don't know if he's a tackle. He's a really good player. I don't know if he's a tackle.
Go Pokes.
And that's what we're talking. Yeah, go Pokes. That's what we're talking about. So if that guy was definitely out there right now, I think I would say 3 is most likely. But since he's not, I'll say 1 is most likely. But I feel stronger by the day that they really need to find one if they can. I just don't know if they will because I don't know if it's going to be available.
Yeah, like there should be a 4th option, which is Ohio State finds a transfer portal tackle that starts as a depth piece, but then potentially can emerge as a starter midway through the season if we don't see market improvement out of Shabola or Michalski. That I think that's the most likely overall scenario.
You guys ready for another question?
I love them. Yeah.
Would you rather be 7 foot tall or 3 foot tall for the rest of your life?
I think I would have to go 7 feet tall. There would be, I don't really know what it's like to be as tall as you, Bill. Obviously, how could I? I know that you need more legroom on planes, so you don't like to fly. And when you're not driving, that you can often get uncomfortable in the car. So I do have to take that into account. but I would love to just suddenly start dominating pickup basketball games, or in the maybe it's not too late. Maybe if I was 7 feet tall, I could make a living playing in Greece for a couple years and just really branch out. I don't know. I think that it's more fun to consider that. I'd like to, always be able to have a clean view at concerts, or Friday night in the shot at SmackDown. Nobody could ever be in my way again. That sounds great. I think the reverse problem is not one that I want to deal with never being able to see over people and struggling to maybe operate a vehicle. It doesn't sound right to me.
Plus, an elevator smells way different for a 7-footer than a 3-footer. You know what I mean?
I hadn't even considered that, but yes, that's true.
You have to start there. Being on an elevator is a completely different experience for a 7-foot person versus a 3-foot person.
But 3 feet, like, is that as tall as Liberty? Is that how? I don't know how tall. Like, is that what we're talking about? 3 feet? Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
It's a rough life for a 3-footer. So I don't think this one's I think this is a no-brainer. You can always push your car seat back farther to get it to make it for a 7-footer. You can.
I don't know that you can.
Sure, you can. There's a lot of NBA players who have custom cars. They're
custom. That's the point. Is that they're custom.
Everyone who's 7 foot's a millionaire. So
I guess that's true.
You're a freak, and everyone looks at you all the time, but you get paid for it. People are going to look at you with cockeyed if you're 3 foot tall or 7 foot tall. I'd rather them look at me with awe as opposed to aw. You know what I mean? So to me, that's a no-brainer. 7 foot is the way to go, but primarily because of the elevator. That's the number one reason.
It's a fantastic point. There are so I'm like a shade under 6'6", and there are times where like I am just somewhere and I think to myself, like, how can anyone possibly be 6 inches taller than I am and like get by in life? Like driving a car, fitting in a seat that's not the driver's seat of a car, fitting on an airplane. Like airplane, I can't stand up in airplane bathrooms. There are like spaces and houses that I've been in that I don't fit in. Like I have to duck my head when I walk down the stairs in my own home. Like you have to really build like your life around being 7 feet tall. I don't know that there is an appreciation for just how inconvenient that can be.
You have to have like extra stairs added to get into your bed if you're 3 foot tall.
Yeah.
Like you need a ladder to get into bed.
I think Bill's been tall for so long that he wants to be 3 feet tall.
No, I still want to be tall. I don't want to be 3 feet. I like being tall, but it still comes with some inconveniences. I don't think they're challenges, but they're inconveniences. I think being 3 foot tall would come with legitimate challenges.
That sounds right to me. I would say just being just a shade under 6'6", so that people stop asking how tall I am standing next to you in all of our videos doing Snappy J's. That'd be a real sigh of relief. We've already had to cover it. I'm on this show. I'm an average sized American male.
And I am not.
What would be interesting is if one of us said they'd want to be 7 foot tall and someone else said 3 foot tall, and you could carry them around in the backpack, like,
oh yeah,
getting onto football fields and doing snap judgments would be interesting because we could be like the 7-footer could be on the mic talking. And then when it was the 3-footer's turn, we'd just turn around.
Like Voldemort.
Yeah. It'd be kind of awesome. But
don't say his name.
Sorry.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think 7 foot is the way to go here. But either way, as Bill said, there's certainly a challenge to being 7 foot tall. But again, all of them are rich, so who cares?
That's right. All right, let's give the people a recruiting question. Those of you who didn't stop listening during that conversation. When compared to last year's defensive recruiting class, Berm, do you sense more confidence from the program that this year's class will have more Plan A commitments?
Yes, but I don't think that last year was a bunch of Plan B commitments until the very end, if we're being honest. And that's sort of the way it goes when you're competing against Alabama and Georgia for top 5 ranked players in the country. So Ohio State needs to win those battles, but to win those battles, they need to put out a defense that isn't giving up 500 yards a game, and they need to put up a defense that's actually producing guys for the NFL draft again. The Ohio State had that stretch from 2016 to 2020 where they had the NFL Rookie of the Year defensively, I think 4 of those 5 years. You just got to put guys in the NFL and let the success, breed success. But Some of it is NIL, some of it is geographics, some of it is demographics. But if you look ahead at this class already, at linebacker, you've got Garrett Stover, who you offered extremely early. You've got Peyton Pierce, who you offered in January, immediately committed. You have an opportunity with Kingston Viamu Asa, the linebacker in California, who's Plan A and was the first player Ohio State offered in the class of 2024. You got Bryce West and Aaron Scott in Ohio. Those are certainly Plan A. I think what this question is really getting to the heart of is, can Ohio State beat Georgia and Clemson and Alabama for KJ Bolden? And that's pretty much the question that people want. I mean, that is, I think, unfortunately, how this class will be viewed. It's going to be viewed in the success of recruiting KJ Bolden and recruiting as someone like Dylan Stewart, the defensive end from Maryland, because the battle is going to be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State for those guys. So that's, the question. Will Ohio State win those battles? I don't know. I mean, they're certainly in them. They are not in them just because people like to put Ohio State's logo on their graphics. I mean, they're real, contenders for those, but it's a long way between now and December.
It's always, I think, worth keeping in mind that Ohio State can't just go look at the recruiting rankings and go 1 through 25 and fill up their class. Like it sounds like the cliche that the other team has scholarships too, but other schools have things that appeal to certain kids. And I know that this is a more general response, which should not be a surprise for me on a recruiting topic compared to Berm, but like that's just what a 17 or 18-year-old kid wants. It's not always just in an NIL conversation, what they may want to study, where they want to live. Like it's not going to be possible. Yeah. Well, also that, like, whatever your priority list, take them down 1 through 10. Like Ohio State may really, really want somebody and it just won't line up as a fit. Like just because Ohio State gets involved doesn't mean that they should win every recruiting battle. That sounds like a super obvious thing to say, but like they won't win every head-to-head battle with Alabama, Georgia on a competitive footing. They won't win against even USC in situations for a California kid. Like it is hard to win every single recruiting battle that you wage. That I know for Berm is like one of the most obvious facts that anyone could ever state, but it just because sometimes Ohio State gets into a finalist battle for a 5-star player, like they may not actually be a realistic option for that player. Like that's just Ohio State did a great job getting and making it close. You're not going to win every one. That's why you don't just recruit 25 players.
I think you can actually look at it from this way also. Number one, what you said is Ohio State can't offer 1 through 25 and be, but Ohio State's not always going to offer 1 through 25 because Ohio State's priorities are different than other schools are, and everyone's looking at different players. But if you consider that 95% of these battles are road games for Ohio State, ask yourself how many times Ohio State would go win a road game at Alabama or win a road game at Georgia. If they played every year, how many times would Ohio State win that road game? And I think it's a similar debate when you're talking about recruiting players from those schools' backyard. Like it's not going to be easy. Winning 2 out of 10 times. And that's the same thing for Georgia and Alabama if they had to play a road game at Ohio State. Like that is how it would go. So I think that it's just this mindset that Ohio State should always win every recruit, every battle is it's nice. It's a nice idea, but it's just not realistic, especially when they're not recruiting kids from Ohio.
Speaking of road games, another recruiting question for you, Bear.
Ooh, nice.
What are Ohio State's? I don't. This. You don't have to put like a percentage chance on this. Maybe a fairer question would be like, how do you feel like Ohio State is positioned here? But the question is, what are the chances of landing Brandon Baker, the top offensive tackle in the class of 2024 from Mater Dei in California?
I mean, there's a chance. He's already set up his official visit. He's been at town only one time. I don't think that if you look at what happened a year ago with the offensive tackles, we know that is going to be a position that has a very high premium when it comes to NIL, affordability, which is still crazy that this is just the conversation. But it's going to be a battle, especially because, I mean, he visited Ohio State with a group called like NIL group or NIL management. So like something, the NIL, whatever, like
Oh, is that Big Dave's group?
Right. Like it's
Yeah.
it's in the title. Like that is going to be a major part. Now, the question is, how willing is Ohio State to go down that road, and how far are they willing to go down that road, knowing full well that everyone else is going to be willing to. So, but the fact is, he was on campus for like 4 hours in March and already set up an official visit to come back. From all accounts, that visit went really well, but it's still going to be uphill. But he's certainly the player, I think, that if you're looking nationally at like, okay, who can Ohio State, what big name offensive tackle can they really win the battle? Brandon Baker is one, and Gerby Lambert from Northeast is the second one. So those are the two that I think you're really circling if you're an Ohio State fan.
NIL Sports Management is the name of that group.
I mean,
it has a tremendous website that's
it's
not working
in the
well.
title. It's in the title. If you're going to the Pancake House, you're probably going there because you want pancakes. You know what I mean?
Big Dave doesn't know how to set up a website?
No.
Yeah, what's he been doing?
Apparently not.
How unfortunate.
I found this to be an interesting question for a couple of reasons. Is there a world, this is for all three of us, is there a world where you could see yourself covering Michigan as a beat reporter after covering Ohio State for so long?
Do I think that I would be able to do so? Yes. Would I want to? I would not.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that we, especially this spring, we had it pretty good in terms of access. I honestly do not know how they do it. Teams, the reporters around Ann Arbor, like I remember there was one year they didn't even know what day the spring game was going to be. They weren't invited. They didn't get to cover it. Like they didn't see anything in spring ball at all. Like there was a training camp where Jim Harbaugh said they were like going into a submarine and they didn't talk for like 3 weeks. No players, no coaches. I think that's a massive disservice to the fan base. Like they may, some coaches get annoyed with the media and they want to stick it to them. They want to punish them. Like cool. But the people that you're punishing are the fans who want to know about your team. They want to engage with your players. They want to be invested in the success of the school. That's often something that's missed, by programs, and that who they're actually hurting in that battle. And more than ever, especially in the NIL era, you need your fan base to be active and activated and engaged with your roster. And the best way to do that is by providing information and insight. That's my soapbox period for today. I also just don't like the press box at Michigan. I don't know what your thoughts on it, Bill, but like you can't go on the field before the game. We can't. Berm can. You're never really in the big house. It's like a building that's removed from the massive bowl, so you never step foot in there. And then the post game is like you walk around the concourse and then go, in the back door and like try and get into a tiny closet if you're visiting the road team. And if you're the home team, you go into the Chrysler Center and like there's a room in there where you do that. I've had to cover a few games back when I was at ESPN. I did cover Michigan in some capacity as a Big Ten blogger, and I thought it sucked. Like it's just not a fun job. So could I do it? Yes. Would I? No, I would not.
I could, because what I do is specifically more tailored towards individual recruits as opposed to the team. But I mean, I don't think I could do it with the same fervor. I grew up rooting for Ohio State. I don't hide that. Like I grew up, in Ohio and having a healthy distaste for most things Michigan. So therefore it is difficult to envision like doing it and actually caring about it. So I don't think I would really succeed in that space. If I could move on to like a regional recruiting type of gig or something like that, I don't think with any problem. But when you're talking about individual relationships and like how to connect with the coaching staff there, or that sort of stuff, I don't know that it would work.
I mean, you were going to do that.
Michigan coaches,
yeah.
Like, what's up, jerk?
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't feel right. I mean, it's not normal.
Did you think when you briefly were doing a more regional role, like, did you think that you were going to like it long term, not being attached, quote unquote, to one specific school?
Yeah, I mean, I still think I could enjoy that quite a bit if I was traveling a little bit more and that sort of stuff. But the reality is, the reason I do this job at all is because I want to help kids who don't get acknowledgement or publicity. I mean, that's obviously it's all over the place now, so it's hard to find. But that's really why I was always interested in doing this, because I think that there's a way to help people get attention they deserve. So I think doing that in a national role or a regional role would be fun, but I mean, it's not something that I could do with it'd be fun, but I don't think I would love it the way that I love what we do now, because it's more, this is home, it's harder to envision spreading the wings and flying. Well, Bill, I mean, you obviously went to Penn State. You've been covering Ohio State for 8 years. What makes you say you couldn't or wouldn't be able to go cover Michigan?
He needs to get the hat trick.
Yeah, that's a good point. I could. I'm like Austin. I don't particularly want to, but I could. Me going to Penn State has not had no impact on me covering Ohio State, and me covering Ohio State would have no impact on me covering Michigan. Their access stinks, and I like the access we get at Ohio State. I'm very appreciative of it. It's actually quite good for this level of college football. Which is one of the many reasons why I think covering Ohio State is probably the best job you can have covering college football if you're going to be a beat writer. So I wouldn't necessarily want to leave that, but I could if I don't know if the check clears, I'll cover anybody, I suppose. I do not like the Michigan press box. It is, speaking of being 7 foot tall, it's not built for tall people. My legs, when I try to sit under the table, my knees hit the desk in front of me, and I have to hunch over the desk like this to try to type my story. It's awful.
He looks quite uncomfortable in the Michigan press box. I can tell you that for sure.
It's like a little
sardine can for that game too.
I could enjoy the fact that it's only 40 minutes from my house as opposed to 2.5 hours. So in that vein, I guess I would be somewhat appreciative of the shorter commute. But other than that, I can't see anything about it that I would consider a positive.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't live in Columbus?
I don't. Oh.
Where did you used to live?
I used to live in Toledo. Now I live in Michigan. I've also lived in Columbus and Phoenix.
Phoenix. Oh, that's right.
The greater Phoenix metro area.
That's right.
What else you got, Bill?
I was listening to a podcast the other day. They were drafting American cities, the best American cities, and someone picked Scottsdale, and then they had an argument of whether or not that included Phoenix. Would you tie the two together, or would you get one or the other if you're drafting?
Scottsdale is a part of Phoenix. It's not
okay.
Phoenix is a part of Scottsdale. I mean,
why would they think they could separate them? They're not. It's not like they're 45 minutes apart.
Yeah, they're basically the same.
Yeah.
Plus, if you get Phoenix, what are you actually getting if you get Phoenix? You don't really
if you get Phoenix, you get Scottsdale. That's the whole point. You also get Tempe. That's and Mesa.
They're not
they're all the same.
Famously known, Scottsdale and Phoenix are not the famous twin cities. I've never heard anybody separate the two of them.
It's not Fort Worth and Dallas. It's not Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's one street over. It's not.
it's just a lot. You get a lot when you pick Phoenix.
It's like if you're saying you pick Columbus, you pick Dublin, Ohio, but do you get Columbus with it? Of course you do. That's
I wouldn't want downtown Phoenix. I could do without that for sure. Yeah. I'd be happy to just take Scottsdale and Tempe and leave the rest.
I like the whole valley.
I do love Scottsdale. Scottsdale's the best.
I like the whole Valley of the Sun. It's the first really man-made city in America where they just put a giant grid out there and said, this is your grid. This is your home. You can get anywhere. You know exactly where you are in the city at all times based on the streets. It's generally pretty clean. It's always warm. Every once in a while, you get a haboob. Big deal.
You get a what now?
A haboob.
I'll take two.
The haboob. It's a sandstorm.
Oh.
It's just they just call it a haboob.
Well,
that's when they start blaring out dance music and electronic music.
I believe that's the Native American term for the sandstorm. But yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, sandstorm. Let's get to another question, shall we? I forgot this and was quickly reminded that I had made a reference to NWO on a podcast earlier this week. So someone asked, professional wrestling question. In their peak moments, did you prefer WCW Monday Nitro or the WWF Attitude Era Monday Night Raw?
It's a no-brainer. I don't even watch wrestling, and I know the correct answer to this is Monday Night Raw. That's not even.
Yeah,
it's not a question.
When this will be hard to believe, Bill, but when I got back really into it for the first time, like watching it every Monday night, it was because of Nitro and the NWO Outsiders storyline, and they were cool when they were winning the ratings. It was because I was also watching it. But that once that storyline dissipated and the attitude, like you have to almost separate them. Like Nitro at its peak did not come at the same time as Raw, and once the Attitude Era kicked off, that was once the audience was shrinking down to nothing for WWF at that time, and they were like, oh, well, maybe we should make this show edgier so that people want to watch it instead of 50-year-old Hollywood Hogan in a storyline that like they didn't have any solution for once he got control of booking and creative and just let himself do whatever he wanted. Like, but when Goldberg was undefeated and when he was dueling with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and the Wolfpack before the finger poke of doom and the taser, like, and also WCW for whatever reason liked to come to Casper and go to the Casper Event Center. We had several shows a year of WCW, and WWF never came there. So like,
they didn't know.
You better call somebody to come to Casper in the Event Center and get like 8,000 people. I don't know why we got Nitro, but we got Nitro, we got Thunder, we got whatever the Saturday night show was called that I can't remember. Like, and I was able, of course, to go to all of them. It's like that had me hooked on that, but definitely the shift towards Sable and Trish Stratus and Stone Cold and against Vince McMahon.
Interesting. Which ones you name first?
Had a way of changing the channel.
Dude doesn't say The Rock. I mean, The Rock.
I could list more, but I was 14 years old. Berm, what do you think was at the top of the list? It was a haboob.
The haboob. Yeah. It was Raw for me for sure. I don't recall really watching WCW at all. Like, and I went back. Like, I have recently gotten back into it a little bit because of Austin, and like I went back and like went back and watched the Monday Night Wars documentaries that are on Peacock, and like I'm watching all the WCW stuff. It's like I don't remember any of this, but I remember all the WWF stuff. And I was also into ECW being in Philadelphia because we did pro wrestling the right way, where we like literally just beat the crap out of each other. There was nothing fake about it. And then that started to migrate over to WWF. So it was always Raw for me. I was never really into WCW at all.
I watched some wrestling when I was like 20-ish, just get together and with the friends and drink on Monday nights. I always considered WCW to be like the Red Vines of wrestling, right? Like WWF was Twizzlers and WCW was like the Red Vines. And you're like, everyone who liked Red Vines, you're like, yeah, I think there's something wrong with you, pal, because there's Twizzlers right there. And you could just get that instead.
You've always felt that way, or that's just
always
like
okay. That's the way if you were a WCW fan at that era of WWF, I was judging you. That's all I'm saying.
Bill, did you go to a original EC Dub show?
No way. That was like my neighbors next door were like the ones who got us into it, and they were more rebellious than me and my brothers were. So like my parents would never take me to that, I don't think. But like we would go into their basement and watch ECW, like whatever the pay-per-view events were. They had like a hot box, and we would watch that for free illegally, and it was great. It was great. It was real formative years for me, watching a man get his head beaten in with a baseball bat wrapped with barbed wire. It was awesome.
The hot box reference is a day late, Bill. Grow up, Bill.
You made it for us on the podcast daily on Thursday, so you had us covered.
Are there any other questions?
Did you guys have those? Is that a Philadelphia only thing? Hotbox, when you would just steal cable? Did you guys have that growing up?
I mean, we had apparatuses like that. It was never named a hotbox. It was just called like pirating cable.
I think that's the second time that Hotbox has come up on a Freaky Friday mailbag because I am no longer thrown by what that is or confused. Like I've at some point I've definitely had that explained. The Philly slang. We did not have hot boxes in Casper, so
Okay.
That's because it was so cold all the time.
The boxes ran
Too cold
indeed.
for the hot box.
Yeah.
I want to pull two more questions. One can be quick. Someone asked me, being a local Philly expert, if I've had Wario's cheesesteaks here in Columbus. I have, and it is the second best cheesesteak I've ever had. And it might be the best. I'm hesitant to call it the best, but it's close. I've had the conversation many times. I'm embarrassed to admit how often I've had this internal conversation about whether or not it is the best cheesesteak I've had, because I don't want to give a place that's not in Philadelphia props, but it is very good. And if you haven't gone there, you should go there.
I've never been
You wouldn't be
there,
allowed
but
to go home.
My family wouldn't welcome me if I did that. That's my fear.
But are they a business that you should be reaching out to for your own NIL deals? I guess is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, whatever they want, I'll do it.
If you're listening, Wario,
Mr. Wario.
You guys should see the new Mario Brothers movie. By the way, it's
Is
fantastic.
it good?
Yeah. Liberty Island on opening day.
How's Italian Chris Pratt? Is it good?
I don't think this is a spoiler. They only speak in an Italian accent on their horrible plumbing commercial at the start of the movie when they're based in New York before they get go through the tubes, and then they speak like Chris Pratt and Charlie Day for the rest of the movie.
So the premise for this Mario movie is cultural appropriation, huh? How about that?
They just kind of tuck it in a little bit. I don't think they wanted everyone to be subjected to Chris Pratt trying to do an accent for an hour and a half. And I don't know that he could have done it. He's pretty limited. He's pretty limited in what he can do, in my estimation.
They should have cast Mario Lemieux instead.
Oh, there you go.
No thanks. I wouldn't.
Mario's only.
What about Mario Lopez?
Now you're talking
Sign me up.
The Mario Brothers. Mario Lemieux and Lopez.
They don't really ever fully explain, and nobody ever has. They call it the Mario Brothers Plumbing Company, but his brother's name is Luigi. So is his name Mario and Luigi Mario?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right.
Or is it Mario? Is Mario's brother? It's Mario's brother plumbing company. And actually Luigi's the one in charge.
Luigi's not in charge. That's a very important part of the movie.
Poor guy.
Spoiler alert. He's got to come
into
his own.
Now I can't go see it.
You will.
No, I'll wait till it comes to DVD.
Yeah, you'll wait.
I'll wait till I can hotbox it.
There you go. Hotbox that, baby.
There are no more football questions in here, so we can be done whenever you'd like.
Probably.
It's Freaky Friday.
Probably a good idea.
You said there was one more you wanted to get to, I thought.
There is one more I wanted to get to. It is a non-football question, of course, but I feel like that is fine for the way the show has gone. If one fast food or fast casual restaurant could come to Ohio, which one would you like it to be and why?
What restaurants aren't in Ohio? It's in some location or another.
Yeah, my answer to this question 3 years ago might have been Torchy's Tacos, but now there's one here in Columbus. Went there the other day. It was great. In-N-Out, I guess. I don't know. In-N-Out's fine.
No,
it's fine.
It's
overrated a little bit, but it's okay.
I think that's what they were trying to bait us into. Do you want In-N-Out in Columbus?
Who asked this? Who asked this question? Is it someone from the West Coast?
It's Ari.
No, it wasn't. It was actually shockingly. It wasn't Ari. It was Bixman 4419.
Oh, so he's a Toledo guy. Okay, so that's the Toledo is the restaurant capital of America.
One of your dogs. So this might be. Is this your burner?
I say nothing.
He knew right away that it was from Toledo somehow. I don't know what the
because he said 419 that's the area.
Oh, okay. I thought Bix must have been some super famous Toledo restaurant that they needed to bring down here.
Toledo, actually, I mean, I don't know if this is still the case, but it used to be the city in the country that had more restaurants per capita than anywhere in the entire country, as far as test restaurants and stuff like that for national chains. It's not a lot of like unique restaurants, but as far as chain restaurants and national names, like everything comes through Toledo and is often used as like a test market for restaurants for some reason. So pretty much everything's been here or is here already. So I don't know that there's anything I do miss Del Taco being here. It was here for like a year and then they closed it down and then they replaced it with a Tony Paco's, which whatever. Not the original Paco's. So
a place that I'm actually surprised that is not here and feel like if it's not, it's probably planned is Portillo's. I wouldn't mind there being a Portillo's here.
Yeah. Didn't we go to one? Like, there's one in Indianapolis now. Didn't we go?
Yeah,
there
we went to one in Indy after one of the car shows we went to. Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it should be in Columbus in no time. We'll definitely have one of those. Other like, I'm trying to think of places like when I was growing up or around where my parents live in Texas. So you have like Brahms ice cream and like burgers. There's another taco place there called Taco Bueno. That's what I grew up with. We don't have that here. And then Whataburger, obviously, we don't have that, which is roughly 10 billion times better than In-N-Out. So if we could, I think all those things will eventually be here because Columbus is just the northern version of Austin, Texas. So we'll share all that just as we've already acquired Torchy's Tacos. Well, we don't want that school up here. That we could do without that.
That was a wolf pack. Sorry.
Oh.
Wow. Is that 2 days in a row with a howl?
That is 2 days in a row.
It's wild. I got nothing else.
The wolf pack, man. Once you're in, it's for life. There's no doubt.
That's right.
Okay.
You can take my word for it. We'll see you all at the Shot on Friday night for WWE SmackDown. We can have a full breakdown. I don't think Bill is going, unfortunately. George is not quite ready for that one. But Liberty is. She is pumped. Her first WWE show. I don't know how it's going to go. I wish it didn't start at 8 o'clock for her because it could get pretty dicey by the time the show ends. But we'll see. Anyway, it'll be great. Sorry for any of the audio issues that I had. It's my fault on Thursday's show. Hopefully we'll get it corrected. Berm's going to come troubleshoot this again after we do some work this weekend. Stay tuned for all that coverage at ohiostate.rivals.com. And then we'll be back here on Monday to start another off-season week of the Podcast Daily. For Bill and Berm, I'm Austin. Thanks again. See you next time.